You may have already seen the artist rendering of Rudy Giuliani acting out in federal court this week. It looked like he was the Wicked Witch of the West. No, this is not wicked. This was Rudy Giuliani. I thought he was about to tell the federal judge, and your little dog too. Well, why is he in federal court this week? Why is he going back to a different federal court on the 12th of December? Which judge, Judge Lyman or Judge Howell, is going to put him in jail first and fastest for contempt of court and acting out, all related to the $150 million judgment and his failure to turn over all his property to Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss? I break it down for you right here. Let's talk about Rudy Giuliani, not because I want to, because I have to. Rudy Giuliani, to bring everybody up to speed, was back in court again today. He's got two courts, by the way. All right, let me just fast forward. December 12th, he's going to be back in front of Judge Beryl Howell to answer for being in contempt. He might go to jail on that one. What's the contempt, you may ask? Okay. He's continuing to defame the very people that hold the $150 million judgment against him, which is Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss from the Fulton County, election office counting scandal of 2020. Scandal of the fact they weren't doing anything but counting votes, but they were accused of fraud. On a recent podcast on November 12th and 14th, on his own, The Mayor Speaks, or whatever he calls it, he did it again. He said they were passing a thumb drive between each other that had votes for Biden on it, that they were shoving into the machine, making the vote total fraudulent, which is totally false. We have a word for that in the law, defamatory. We have another word for that in the law. He violated a consent agreement he signed, Rudy Giuliani, in order to avoid future litigation, in which he agreed he would never defame Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss again. And there he was, scrounging for dollars, bowling for dollars on his podcast nobody watches. And he was running out of content, running out of steam. You can hear him running out of steam. He's got a producer. I got a guy. I got Salty. He's very good. He's got a guy. He's like anything he can come up with pops out of his head through his mouth. There's no mind mouth barrier, right? It's just completely, there's no barrier. Just right out. He does it again, and the lawyers are listening. So they bring a motion for contempt. The judge is like, yeah, I'll see you on the 12th of December and be in my courtroom. So we got that to look forward to. Now he's back in another federal court in New York before Judge Lyman, a very well-respected judge. Father was a very well-respected lawyer who I think Rudy Giuliani had cases against when he was the Southern District prosecutor, a U.S. attorney. And so Lyman has a hearing today to discuss when they're going to have a hearing about the there's two pieces of property left, two major pieces that haven't been adjudicated by Judge Lyman in the terms of the turnover of assets to Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. He turned over, sort of, the 1980 Mercedes. I'm going to show you a clip in a minute. He turned over some of the household goods that he had. He turned over some things, but not everything. He was ordered to turn over 2 weeks ago because the judgment is the judgment. He has no defense to the judgment of punitive damages and defamation, $150 million, and he's got to turn things over. But he's been dragging his feet. He's through his third set of lawyers. This new guy, Joe Camerata, who's like a personal injury lawyer in Staten Island, suddenly shows up to represent the mayor. And the slow footing of this foot dragging is pissing off the lawyers for Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, who are doing this for free, pro bono, and they dragged him back into court today. So the judge wanted to know what was going on with the turnover, and the judge wanted to set a time for when the last hearing in the case is going to be about the Florida condo that he owns and whether that gets turned over to Ruby Freeman or Shay Moss and these Yankee rings. Now, first we had the turnover about the 1980 Mercedes, one that Rudy Giuliani infamously drove when he should have turned it over on election day to go vote for Donald Trump down in Florida. And we know it because there's video and there's photos of it, and we ran it on the Midas Touch Network. Okay. He finally has to turn it over. And who shows up to do the turnover at some car warehouse in Hialeah, Florida, of all places? Joe Camerata, the new lawyer for Rudy Giuliani. and I'm on the edge of my seat on this one. He's narrating a video of his turnover, making his already rejected legal argument about why the cars shouldn't be turned over. But he's using the opportunity, like he's making a TikTok, to make his federal argument before he actually entered an appearance in the case. We actually have that clip. We ran it on Midas Touch. Let's roll the clip.
I'm here in Miami turning in the mayor's only mode of transportation thanks to a court order compelling him to do so. This despite existing exemptions which should have protected the car and allowed for the mayor to retain it. We were being forced to turn the car over, his only mode of transportation, because of this court order from this totally outrageous $148 million judgment.
Okay, one of my favorite parts of that, Salty added in the clip, is when Joe Camerata motions with the key. This car, his only mode of transportation. So Rudy's, when he's not doing these outbursts and yelling at him, I'll tell you about that in a minute, he's pleading poverty. Oh, they took my Social Security. I can't open a bank account, and I couldn't write you a check if I had a checkbook. And woe is me. Well, maybe you shouldn't defame two election workers, make them run for their lives because you claim that they were involved in a fraudulent conspiracy with Venezuela. These poor Fulton County, Georgia election workers. Maybe you should think twice before you speak, and how you spoke just 2 weeks ago on your podcast. So what happened is in court today, Rudy sometimes forgets that he's not a lawyer anymore. And I mean, literally, he's not a lawyer anymore. He had 2 bar licenses to practice, one in Washington, one in New York. He lost both of them. So he has a lawyer. It's this guy you just heard, Joe Camerata, who's not qualified to do this job. He's not a federal court lawyer. He's a guy that I'm sure Judge Lyman's never heard of. He's the only guy that would take the case. Joe Camerata from Staten Island. He's not even the most famous Joe Camerata. There's another Joe Camerata who used to represent Paula Jones against Bill Clinton. And he didn't want to be confused with this Joe Camerata, so he put up on his website, I'm not the Joe Camerata that's currently representing Rudy Giuliani. I'm like, it's so bad now. People are taking out ads to say they don't represent Rudy Giuliani. And so Joe Camerata is in court today, but of course, Rudy doesn't have respect for him either. So he throws over his lawyer. And the only topic today is, why aren't you turning over the title? You saw the car got turned over, but where's the title? You didn't get the duplicate title turned over. And the judge decides he's going to chastise Rudy Giuliani through his lawyer a little bit. You were the U.S. attorney, the top federal officer in Southern District, New York, Manhattan, the most elite prosecutor's office. You can't get a duplicate title done? And Rudy's like, oh, I take offense to that. You have all sorts of assumptions, and this is my artist rendering because we don't have audio. There's all sorts of misrepresentations about me. And the judge says, here, I got another thing to remind you of. You're in federal court, and I'm the judge. You have 2 choices. I either swear you in as a witness on the stand, and then you can say whatever you want under oath, which means I'll take it into account when I find you in contempt. Or you can let your lawyers do their job. Or you can be your own lawyer. But this hybrid thing, where you're saying stuff out loud and the lawyer sits there quietly, that's not happening anymore. And so he shut him down there. And the only other thing left was scheduling a hearing for whether the condo in Florida is a Florida asset, so it won't be turned over, because there's a whole thing I won't bore you with called homestead protection in Florida. That's why all deadbeats go to Florida and buy houses. They protect homes from judgments. And he's trying to argue that he's homesteaded because he lives in Florida year round, but there has to be a certain date when he did that. And I think Rudy effed up the date, and there's going to be a whole evidentiary hearing about that. And if Rudy's wrong, he's going to lose that condo too. And he is going to be homeless. And then the remaining issue is whether the Yankee rings, here come the Yankee, the Yankee rings he got as mayor, not because he played in the game, are his, or did he gift them over to Andrew Giuliani back in 2018, even though he continues to wear them? Because if he gifted them, well, then they're not his property. And of course, Andrew Giuliani, to help out his dad's like, I got those as a gift. They're supposed to be mine. All my artist renderings sound the same, by the way. I use the same accent. And so there's going to be a big hearing about it. Is there enough proof to show that these were not part of the estate of the property owned by Rudy Giuliani, and he gifted it to his people? But then, of course, on the way, I don't know if it was in or out of the courthouse that same day, there's this great clip of Rudy with Joe Camerata, this balding guy next to him, talking about what just happened in the courtroom. And we actually have it for you. So we're going to play it. Let's play it.
Reality is, I have no cash. It's all tied up. So right now, if I wanted to call a taxi cab, I can't do it. I don't have a credit card. I don't have a checking account. I have no place I can go take cash out except the little bit that I saved, and it's getting down to almost nothing. I have a business. I can do business expenses, but I'm very careful about that because God forbid I should make a mistake between a personal and a business expense. Unlike Hunter Biden, I go to jail right away.
Sorry, coming out of the video. It looks like I lost power where I'm at. I'm sharing a plug in this hotel, so I had to plug in my computer. So the guy in the magenta maroon suit or jacket, that's Joe Camerata. He looks a little bit uncomfortable there as his client says, all my money's tied up. I don't have any. I'm cash poor, but I'm asset rich, whatever he's trying to say there. He does have a business. And let me just tell people out there that they will, after they get all these assets out of, and they will, from Rudy Giuliani, including, I think, the home in Florida, whatever's left, there's going to be like $140 million left of the judgment that has to be paid. Then they will garnish his wages. They'll go after the money that he's making on these podcasts. And this will be the last chapter of Rudy Giuliani's sordid career. And that's it. And today they asked, not even nicely, Joe Camerata and Rudy Giuliani, and the judge says, we're going to have a hearing. It's going to be on the 15th of January. And we're going to talk about your rings and your condo. And they said, oh no, the 20th of January is the inauguration. And Rudy's working and planning on that. What kind of planning is he doing for the inauguration, by the way? You know, he's 80. He's like 85 years old. He barely can plan how to get up in the morning. No, I'm not dissing 85-year-olds. I'm talking about I've met Rudy Giuliani. He's not a well man. I'll just put it that way. And the judge said, no, your social calendar that you want to attend the inauguration does not concern me. We're having a hearing on the 15th of January about this evidentiary issue. And you can be there, but it's 5 days before the inauguration anyway, which is why I'm sure Judge Lyman was like annoyed. And it came after they had already had the outburst where the judge said, you got two choices. You know, you're either going to be on the stand or you're going to be your own lawyer, but you're not doing this other thing. Welcome back. Got a number of ways you can plug in to Legal AF. We've got the Legal AF of the YouTube channel at Legal AF MTN. You're already here. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. We got Legal AF, the podcast. That's on Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time on the Midas Touch Network. Free subscribe to them. There are collaborators in all of this pro-democracy channel builds. And then, of course, we've got the audio podcast version of Legal AF also on every place you get audio. Hot takes that I do about law and politics on the Midas Touch Network and almost at every day in every way on the Legal AF YouTube channel. And then a new show, Popok Live, on Tuesday nights on the Midas Touch Network. So until my next reporting on all things Legal AF, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.